Hey, what's up, you code stars? Let's learn and launch. So in this tutorial, we are going to be learning about Scratch. So we're going to code it, build it, and own it. So I've developed this tutorial in depth where we'll be digging deep into Scratch user interface and we'll build a simple program at the end of the video. This program is based on the primary school level. So if you're a teacher, then you'll feel much confident to teach it in your classroom. So perfect. Now we are going to start with a couple of slides and look into what is Scratch and where is it based from, and then we'll jump into the user interface, of which is also called the IDE. And for obvious reasons, my name is Simpiwe with a C. If you have questions, please put them on the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with the others. Okay, my friends with bright minds, let's look at the objectives. So by the end of this video, you should be able to know what is Scratch and where is it developed. You should be able to state the similarities between Scratch and Scratch Junior, and also be able to know and name all the sections of the Scratch user interface. And the main objective of this is to know how to code flexibly with Scratch. So, on the introduction, Scratch is the block-based visual programming language developed by the MIT Media Lab. So these are the guys literally who are maintaining the Scratch. So most things in Scratch are the same as Scratch Junior, but this might be called with different names. There may be more things to choose from in Scratch than in Scratch Junior. So Scratch utilizes the coding blocks. And Scratch is also a great way to get into computer programming because it allows you to play with these building blocks in a visual manner. Not to be all concerned about the syntax, the curly braces, the semicolons, parentheses, and all the likes of indentation. So now let's look at the Scratch IDE, which is Integrated Development Environment, which looks like this. Okay, my friends with bright minds, now let's look at the IDE. You might find your IDE having the blue color, but don't mind that because everything in Scratch is the same. So now, Scratch interface is divided into 4 sections. The first section is the code palette, but I want us to use the word toolbox because it is easy to remember. So inside the toolbox, we have the tools, which are our code blocks. So with these tools, we build the scripts or the code. What do? We drag the tools inside the workspace. This is our section 2, the workspace. So in our workspace, this is where we snap all these tools or the code blocks together to form a script. Down here, we can zoom out if we have plenty of scripts. We can zoom in again, so we can work with only one script. Then we come to the third section of our IDE. This is where we get the output from our script that we have written on the workspace. This is where our codes come to life. Right here on this corner here, we see these 4 arrows. That simply means this button here, it will enlarge the stage. Now I want us to pay attention on this last section where we find the sprite info pane. We can see that there's too much happening here, but don't worry, I will explain everything. So notice here we have sprite 1, we also have sprite 1 here. What does that mean? It means this sprite 1 is the name of this sprite we have here on the stage. So we come to sprite and we can change this name to whatever name that we desire. Then we come down here, we have a show. We can see by the looks of things that these colors are not the same. This one has been grayed out and this one is purplish. So it means this button here is active, is showing the sprite. So on the interface, when you click here, this one will be active and the sprite will be hidden. So you can be able to talk around these buttons. Then we come to size here, we see we have 100 as the value. So I'm not sure if this value is for percentage or 4 millimeters. But if you have an idea, please leave it on the comment section. Moving along, now I want us to look into this direction value, of which is 90. This direction is not about the movement, but is about where is this sprite facing. Currently we can see that this is 90 and the sprite is facing right. So that simply means if we have to check or change the sprite to face to the left, we have to change the value. How do we do that? We change the punching the value, or we just drag the sprite on the interface, then the value will change. We'll look into it when we get to the interface, because this one is just a screenshot of the interface. Now we have the vertical double arrow, which represent the values of y. So the value of y is 0, and we said it is vertical. So it tells us that our y, when it's 0, it means it's in the middle. Because also we can see that we have the horizontal double arrow again with the value of 0, which represent x. That simply means the x-axis also is on 0 right here. We'll look into it more on the Cartesian plane. Now let's look at these two menus, then we'll jump to the Cartesian plane. So this one is a sprite menu. When you click this menu, it will pop up and give you options where to choose the sprite. So Scratch comes with plenty of sprites to choose from, which we'll look into when we jump to the IDE, as I've said. Then on the right side here we have pretty much the same menu, but here we are choosing what? We are choosing the backdrops. What are backdrops? The backdrops are pretty much like the background or the wallpaper of the stage. Now lastly, let's look into details of the Cartesian plane. So let's start here on the origin. So on the origin, we see that this is the origin. We see that this cat has hidden the 0 of the x. On the right side, we see we have a positive 100 and a positive 200. That simply tells us that the sprite is moving to the right. Then inversely, we have a negative 100 and a negative 200, which is pretty much opposite with these positive ones. And yet we have a positive 100 on the y-axis and a negative 100 on the y-axis, which means that here we're going down and here we're moving up. Lastly, I want us to look at these coordinates here. We have a 0x and a 180y. That simply means our cat is right about here. Then here we have a negative 240, of which is our x value, and a 0, of which is our y value. We can estimate that our sprite rather is right about there. And inversely so, it's right about here, because now here we are having a positive 240 and a positive 0. Okay, then also here we can say, okay, this one we have a positive 180. Right here we are having a negative 180 and a 0x. That simply means we are here with our sprite. We'll see more of this when we go to the real IDE. Okay, my friends, right now we are on the actual IDE. First things first, let's look at the file menu. So on the file menu, this is where we find new, where we create a new project, load from your computer. If you have previous projects, you can load them from your computer. Then after creating, and when you're done with your project, you can save it to your computer's hard drive. Then we come to edit. On the edit, we find the turn on table mode, which we won't be using that. Then we have tutorial. We don't need that because you are on a tutorial, right? Then here we have the Scratch project. this is where we name our project. Right now we said this is a tutorial. It means our project will be named tutorial. Now let's go to those 4 sections that we discussed on a previous video. So right here we are having the code palette. So on the code palette we get the code blocks, of which those are tools, and the code palette we said is a toolbox. So when we click on these tabs, we see that we find the looks, which are purple, we have sounds, which are pink, events, control, sensing, operators, variables, and my blocks. You notice that on my blocks there's nothing there, there's no any code block. What does that tell us? It says to Scratch, okay Scratch, create me a block where I will nest everything on it. So in essence, this is where we take a bag and we put inside the scripts, so we can have only one bag that containing the scripts. It's just kind of like a housekeeping. Then we come to costumes. In costumes, this tab contains the costumes, of which we have costume 1, costume 2. Then on other sprites, we have plenty of costumes. There might be 3 or 4. They all comes with Scratch. Yet you can create your own costumes by just drawing them using these tools here, which is the rectangle, the circle, the line, the paint bucket, brush, the pointer, and so forth. Then we come to sounds. In sounds also, we come to this menu where we can add sounds. These are all the sounds that they come with Scratch. You can scroll down, you'll see we have all the sounds that can be filtered using these tabs, the effects, the loops, notes, and all other ones that are on the user interface. Now let's go to motions. One thing that I want us to look at is the events tab, then where we find the when green flag is clicked. What is special about this block? This block executes the code. When you press this green flag, it is linked with this green flag. Okay, so it executes the whole scripts that we'll be having. Then when we come to motion, we just come and drag this to our workspace. Notice that when the blocks are closer to each other, we get this gray shadow. So that simply means that we can just leave the block, then it will snap automatically to the other block. Right here we have the positive magnifying glass and the negative magnifying glass. So if we have plenty of scripts, then it means we can just zoom out so we can view each and every script that is on the workspace. If we haven't used my blocks to just housekeep the scripts, then we can zoom in if we just have 1 or 2 scripts, so we can work effectively. Then coming to the stage, the stage has this button here which gives us the full screen and the small screen. So once we're done, when we want to see the magic happens, we just click on this controlling button where we'll get the full screen, then we'll press our green flag. Right now I've pressed the green flag. I best believe that our Scratch moved 10 steps. Now we can go and check it on our y-axis. We can see that the axis, they have the value of 10, of which these are the steps that have been taken by the sprite. So when I click again another 10 steps, we get a 20. It turns out that we can change this value into 16. So when I press the green flag, I'm expecting to get how many? 80 steps. That's correct. Then when I press the green flag, I have 80 steps. Then coming down here, we have the sprite name. We said we can change the sprite name by just typing in whatever name we desire. Notice when I press enter or I press away, this sprite one will be gone. So I'll just press away. Now we have cat. What does this help? It helps when we have plenty of sprites. When we code plenty of sprites, then we can name our sprites that this is a cat, this is Amo, this is whoever that we have on the sprite info pane. Now we'll come to the toggling menu. This is where we show and hide our sprite. Then we come to size. The size on default is 100, but when we punch in 200, then the sprite grows bigger, and when we go to 50, then it will be smaller. Then let's leave it at 100. Then the direction here we see that is on 90. That simply means our sprite is facing to the right. Then when I click here, I get this dial. Then when I drag this dial, we can see that the arrow does tell that the sprite is facing up. As I continue, it's facing to the left, which is negative. We can see that it's negative 90. Then when we go down, then we have 180. The exact amount of the value, there we go, is 180. Now let's go back and check. Let's go to negative 90. Just want to show you something quickly. Then if it happens that you find that this sprite is facing to the left yet is upside down, you just come to this left right button, then you just fix it. Okay, simple as ABC. Now let's come down here where we find our sprites. You see we have a ballerina girl, and you can see that is interactive. That simply means it has plenty of costume. Let's click it. Let's go to costume. We see that it has 4 costumes, unlike the cat. The cat only has 2 costumes, right? Then now we can go back and say, okay, we can filter down these sprites by clicking on these tabs: the animals, people, fantasy, dance, and all other ones. Then this is where we can delete the sprite on the bin icon. Then we come to the backdrops. The backdrops works pretty much the same as the sprite. You can filter them with fantasy, music, sports, and so forth. Then we can click whichever that you like. Then we have the backdrops on the stage, as you can see here. Then when we enlarge the stage, the backdrop is still there. Then we can come here and look at the extensions. On the extensions, we have music, we have a pen, and sensing, a video sensing. So a video sensing works with a camera, that web camera from your laptop or computer. Then these extensions, they don't require anything, unlike text-to-speech translate, which they require a Wi-Fi. As you can see, there's this Wi-Fi icon. Yet the microbit, the Lego Mindstorms, and the other Legos, they require a Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. Let's just jump into a simple project. Okay, my friends with bright minds, so this will be the program that will be coding. So I'll be explaining each and every block as we are moving along. So here, what does this program do? I'll press the green flag. It will ask what's your name, then I'll punch in my name. Then it'll ask what's your surname, then I'll do so, answering it. Then we'll wait for a few seconds. Then it'll ask me, what is your age? So how old are you? I'm 17 years. So it will say you're 17 years old. So maybe we'll be tweaking some stuff as we go along with the tutorial. So now let's go and download our Scratch. Okay, so now what you'll do is that you'll go to Google and search for Scratch 3. Then you'll come to download. I prefer the downloaded one, unlike the online one, because sometimes it might happen that you don't have the internet and you want to practice your programming. So you'll come here. If you are using Windows, then you'll say download. Then you'll go straight to your downloads folder. This is where you'll get your download. Then when your download is done, this is where you'll double click the Scratch setup executable file. Then you'll wait for it. Then you'll ask you, we want to install it for everybody or for you only. Then you just say everyone, because we want to teach everyone Scratch. Then you click on install. Then you say yes. Then it will install. Then it will install. Then after installing, it's either you run it now or run it later. Let's run it and see if it's successfully installed. then let's click finish. Then voila, we have Scratch on our computer. Then there we go. Now let's go and create that program. Alright my friends, now let's begin with our project. Then in this program I'm going to place the blocks, then explain while placing the blocks of what is happening. So first thing first, we have to come to the events. So on the events we're just going to create the green flag clicked. Okay, so the other blocks is when the space key is pressed, when the sprite is clicked and so forth. But now we don't create all those kind of project. So in this project we are going to be creating a program that is going to ask our name, our surname and our age. Please follow along. If you need to pause the video, please do so you can check the code. So now let's go on. We said it's going to ask our name. Where do we get the ask block? On our sensing. Then we click what is your name. So what's your name? I'll say what's your name, what is your name as we move along, which it's pretty much same English. Okay, what we need to do is that we need to set a variable where our name will be stored. Okay, we go to variable, we start by making a variable. We say okay, our name variable is this one. Then we go and say set the variable to name, right? So now you may ask, where are we going to get the answer? Now we have to go again to sensing. We have this answer block. Okay, so what really happens here is that if the Scratch or the sprite has done asking us our name, it will create a variable where it's going to store the answer, of which the answer will be our name. Where do we punch in? When we start running the code, there will be a field where we'll punch in the answer. How so? Now let's test our code. Let's press go. Now we can see that we have what's your name, of which is this what's your name. Then we have this field, as I've said, that we can punch in our answer. So this field is for this answer. Okay, then my name is Simpiwe. So what's going to happen is that this name, of which is the answer, will be stored in this variable, of which it will be shown here. When I press enter or I press this check, now we can see that our name has been stored in a variable. Simpiwe is the answer. Okay, same process that we are going to do with the surname. What we do is that we can just duplicate this one and click it and stop the code here, then change this one into surname, of which is the shortcut. Let's run it and see if it works. What is your name? Simpiwe. What is your surname? Nzama. Then we have Nzama. That simply means we can't do that. Why we can't do that is because we have only one variable. So it means these two blocks we can't use there. How do we throw them away? We just drag them and drop them here. Now we have to go back to our ask block, which will change the name to surname. Okay, then we go to the variables. We make another variable where we will store our surname. The name of the variable will be surname. Okay, now you see that we have name and surname. Now if you can rewind it, you'll see that we only had this name, of which we said okay, variable, please keep this answered for us, of which now it's no longer the name, it's the surname. Now what do? We go to the variable and place it here, and we click on this drop down and say this is for the surname variable. Again, where do we get the surname as an answer? We go to the sensing, we drag this same block and place it here. Now let's run and check our code. What is your name? My name is Simpiwe. What is your surname? My surname is Nzama. Now you see we have name as name, then surname as surname on different variables. So far, so good. But now we have to get where it says nice to meet you, Simpiwe. Where do we find that? We find this on looks. We are going to drag this, say hello for 2 seconds. While we are still here, let's just increase this to 5 seconds so we can be able to read whatever that sprite is saying. But for you, you may put in or punch in whatever seconds that you wish to punch. Then we'll come and say we want to say it is nice to meet you, Simpiwe Nzama, for that 5 seconds. What do? We go to the operators. On the operators we have this wonderful block that we call join. So right here we need to write it is nice to meet you, because now on these blocks it can change whatever placeholder that is in there. How do we do that? Now let's start by placing this one here and changing this one into it is nice to meet you. Okay, then let me drag this code a bit. Then what do we need to join? We need to join the name and surname. As we said, it is nice to meet you, Simpiwe Nzama. Then it means we have to go and drag another block. Let's drag it. Then where do we find that Simpiwe Nzama? Because the Simpiwe Nzama, the Simpiwe is stored on the variable name, and the Nzama is stored on the surname name. Sorry, on the surname variable. So now let's go to variables and go and grab those blocks. Let's go to variables. For name, that will be Simpiwe because it's stored on the variable name. Then we come to Nzama, then just like this. So now as you can read it, it says join, it is nice to meet you, Simpiwe Nzama, and it will say this for 5 seconds. Now let's run the code. What is your name? My name is Simpiwe. What is your surname? Surname is Nzama. Then it is nice to meet you, Simpiwe Nzama. Now we have a bug. Let me increase these seconds to at least 15 so I can explain what is happening, as you have seen. So the name, the surname, you can see we can't write our sentences like this: name joined with Simpiwe and joined with the surname Nzama. So it means we have a bug. Some stuff, they need some space. We need to create space between these words. How do we go about it? We come to it is nice to meet you. Just after you just press only once on the space bar, that one is fixed, right? Then let's check the code. Then we have Simpiwe, we have Nzama. Now we see we have a space between this U and S. Now we are only left with Simpiwe Nzama that is combined. So how do we do that? We can say, let me run code. We can say Simpiwe, then press the space bar, then we enter and say Nzama, then it is nice to meet you, Simpiwe. Now we have the space again here. But conventionally, it happens that every time we forget to press the space bar. So how do we go about that? Let's try to fix it the other way around, where we'll have some placeholder that will hold our space, just in case if we forget to punch in the space bar. Where do we go? We go to the operators and we drag the join. We remove this join, we add this join here. Then we take this name here, we put it here, and we take this whole join Apple surname and we put it here. And what we're going to do, we are going to remove this Apple and place the space bar inside this placeholder, because we won't be able to be punching the space bar now and then. So now let's check if it works. Simpiwe Nzama. Nice to meet you, Simpiwe Nzama. I didn't press the space bar on the answering field. So it means our code works just pop up. Now let me reduce and get to 5 again. Let me stop the code. So now after we've done that, now we need to put in our age, where we'll have the block that will ask us how old are we, or old are you, or how old I am, right? Where do we go about? We're going to the sensing, because this is where we find the ask block. Then we're going to change this one to how old are you, how old are you, all right? Then we have to create a variable where it will store our age. Let's hope this airplane doesn't pick up. So how do we go about that? Let's go to variables again. We create the age variable and we name it age. Now we have age here. Notice here we have the checkbox. Once I click here on the stage, the age gets hidden, and when I click it back or check it, the age comes back on the stage. So now we take this variable block and say, okay, we set it to age variable. Then we ask again, where are we going to get the answer? Simple, from the sensing blocks. We take answer, just drop it right here. So now the answer that will be given to the program, of which it will be an integer, will be stored inside this variable. Now let's run our program. When the green flag clicked, let's put in the name. Say name. Nice to meet you, Simpiwe Nzama. I didn't press any space bar, guys. Okay. Now we have to say how old are you. Then I'll say 17. Then we wait. We get the 17 on the variable here. Okay. So now there's something that we need to do also, because now it said before, it is nice to meet you, Simpiwe Nzama. Now what about the age? We need to go to the looks again. Now we are no longer dragging this one for 2 seconds and stuff. We are just going to drag this say hello block. So what are we going to do with this say hello block? We are going to join you are years old. Okay, let's go and do that one. Then we'll say you are of which is that age. We need to go and take that variable just like we did with the name and surname. Let's go and drag that variable that will be stored and put it here. Now we have a challenge. You are of which I will say 17. Then the years old, we don't know where to put it. So now it means we need to drag another join block and reconstruct this one, and take this age and put it on the apple, and take this one and put it on the banana. So now we have you are join age and banana. Then we'll change this banana to years old. Years old. Okay, then we go and snap it to hello. We change hello into join you are join age years old. Okay, now let's run it. So now the name is Simpiwe, the surname is Nzama. Hello Simpiwe Nzama. Nazoge. Then we wait for the age. How old are you? I'm 17. You are 17 years old. Again, we are having this no space problem, or we say this is a bug. How do we fix this one? This one doesn't need any interaction. We just come here and say, because it's the last block, we just come here and say you are, after this E we put a space by pressing the space bar. Then we notice that after 17 years, or between 7 and years, we need a space here. We can move these years to the right. Then it means we have to come here. Before Y, we punch in our space. Then we going to have the very same thing that we did with the name and surname that were joined together. Or if you like to create some space, we'll do these placeholders again. but I prefer to do it this way because this is our last block. Now please pay attention on this. You are 17 years old when you come back after putting in our answers. What's your name? Simpiwe Nzama. Nice to meet you, Simpiwe Nzama. Then let's wait for the age. How old are you? I'm 17 years. You are 17 years old. Now we don't have any bug. Remember, Simpiwe is the answer of which is inside the variable name. Then Nzama is the surname which is inside the surname variable. Then 17 is an integer of which is our years, aka age, and it's inside our age variable. Where are those? These ones are the variables. This is a variable name, variable surname, and variable age. These are the codes. So please pause the video and try to code this project by yourself. My friends with bright minds, for the Scratch user interface guide, you'll find it on the Facebook page. And if you want to install your Scratch on the tablet, I have the short on our YouTube channel, or I'll just link it on the description. So if you have a question, please leave it on the comment section also. With that being said, that's it from CXI. Stay curious, stay clever.